Provisional toxicology intern Kethval's bioscanner screamed 4 times before the human even sat down. The first course was fermented thyli nectar, a class 4 cardiovascular toxin for single heart systems. Ambassador Eric Voss drank it in one motion. He set the glass down and wiped his mouth. Bit sweet. What's the main course? I'll be honest with you. What I recorded on that scanner during my first solo rotation rewrote our entire understanding of biology. The soft, rhythmic hum of the medical alcove's climate control vents had been his only company just 20 minutes prior. It was supposed to be a heavily sanitized, perfectly predictable galactic unity banquet, which meant the readings were wrong. Kethval tapped his datapad, frantically wiping at a microscopic smudge of condensation on the edge of the screen. As a trainee, his primary fear was triggering a false alarm during his first live monitoring shift. The Unity equipment was flawless. It had to be a user error. Every dish served in the Grand Crystalline Hall was vetted by the Interspecies Health Compliance Board. 14 distinct poisons had been painstakingly eliminated to accommodate the 312 species present. He pulled the human's file. Sol System, Category 12 Death World. The intern's translucent fingers hovered over the glass interface, his dual circulatory system pumping cold fluid as the dietary cross-reference loaded. The file listed 14 substances on tonight's menu that were violently incompatible with human biology. Not mild irritants. Cell-destroying, organ-failing compounds. Kethval immediately flagged the anomaly to High Arbiter Thesson. The senior official's gill slits flared strictly in protocol-mandated caution, ordering a discreet med team to hold behind the eastern pillar. They expected the ambassador to collapse. Instead, Voss reached for the second course. It was Vretian smoked salt. For most species, it functioned as a mild neural relaxant, a pleasant numbing agent. For humans, the concentration on that ornate silver plate was a confirmed catastrophic liver toxin. Voss didn't just taste it. He unscrewed the dispenser cap and sprinkled a heavy, visible layer over his synthetic protein block, humming a low, discordant tune under his breath. The med team tensed in the shadows. Voss caught their reflection in his empty glass, offered a brief, asymmetrical lifting of his facial muscles, and took a massive bite. Kethval isolated the human's internal telemetry. The data stream scrolled faster than his secondary eyes could track. He watched the Vretian salt compounds hit the human's bloodstream. The liver, a surprisingly dense, multi-lobed organ, simply trapped the toxic molecules and began filtering them into harmless urea. It wasn't failing. It was working with terrifying efficiency. Then came the science that made Kethval check his diagnostics 3 times. He ran a gastric scan. The human's stomach acid registered at a pH of 1.5. A corrosive environment strong enough to dissolve standard-issue surgical steel. The Sorcerer equivalent would melt their own digestive lining in seconds, which meant the human was either dead or... Voss wasn't just surviving the meal. His body was actively metabolizing the poisons, breaking them down, and extracting usable caloric energy. Gone. The toxins were simply gone. By the 4th course, Kethval had stopped sending discrete alerts to Thesson. His scanner was logging a continuous, unbroken stream of biological impossibilities. Voss had now consumed a capsaicin reduction 900 times above the Sorcerer lethal threshold. He followed it with a glass of sparkling mineral water heavily laced with calcium carbonate. That specific mineral density would calcify a Sureshi's internal fluid sacs in under a minute. Voss wiped his chin with a napkin, smiled politely at the Corvin delegate across the table, and complimented the chef. The 7th course arrived by the claws of sous chef Drahl. It was a Morvithian delicacy, a glowing sculpture of crystallized ethanol gel. Every species in the room understood this was a decorative centerpiece. Voss picked it up. He took another bite. Drahl's insectoid mandibles locked open. The gel contained 73% concentrated ethanol. Kethval stared at the subtle, rhythmic blinking of his datapad's low battery indicator, desperately trying to ground his spiraling vitals. Unless the baseline calibration was... No, the Unity equipment was flawless. His damp fingers slipped on the console. The scanner from that first course wasn't just screaming anymore. It had flatlined into a continuous drone of system overload, and in his panic, the trainee routed the live toxicology feed directly to the main banquet display. For 6 agonizing seconds, the grand crystalline hall stopped moving entirely, the stillness broken only by the horrifyingly steady crunch of the human ambassador chewing on a block of crystallized ethanol that possessed enough concentrated neurotoxin to permanently shut down the central nervous systems of every single carbon-based diplomat sitting at the table. 40 delegates stared at the projected ingestion log. A Thessari ambassador pushed her plate away. A Drenari's gill flaps sealed shut, an involuntary fear response unseen in 2 centuries. Voss looked up, swallowed, and gestured at the massive screen showing his own fatal telemetry. "You missed the bourbon I had before I arrived. That's probably the most dangerous thing I've consumed today." Protocol dissolved. Kethval abandoned his alcove, approaching the human with trembling hands to ask the only question his medical training permitted. "Commander Voss, how is your species still alive?" Voss set his fork down, offering a look of mild sympathy. "Doc, everything on Earth is trying to kill us. We just got bored of dying." Reaching into the confiscated items tray, Voss retrieved his worn metal flask, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid, and drank. 3 weeks later, the human delegation hosted a reciprocal dinner. Kethval did not attend. He stood instead before the station's newly reinforced hazard vault. Resting squarely between 2 decommissioned atmospheric weapons sat the worn metal flask. The warning placard beneath it read simply, "Level 9 Human Recreational Beverage."